Hey everybody. So, welcome back. Today we are working on our PPE-COM. So what this is, for anybody who is just tuning in for the first time on this project, this is a device that I am developing. It is patent pending. This is version 0.4, so we have version 1, or I guess this is version 2. What this does is it is a little Bluetooth transmitter that fits inside PPE. So people that are wearing it can communicate with a Bluetooth attached speaker. We are developing a smaller version to fit inside of the ENVO mask. So this is the ENVO reusable N95 mask. And, well, the hospital that we are developing this to test in uses these masks instead of the N95 masks that we were originally developing this for, which are these masks. So this was the original mask that we were developing this prototype for. You can see it actually fits really well inside this mask. So you put it like so inside the mask. You have a magnet like this, and it connects right up. And that is nice and usable. Unfortunately, this is not the mask that we are going to be seeing our healthcare workers using in the hospital system that we are trying to help with. We will probably keep this form factor for people that want to be using it out in the world. We'll slim this board down a bit and make it pretty. We'll put a little case on it so it doesn't look like it's a circuit board. But we're going to see that this doesn't quite fit inside of the ENVO mask. So I'm going to show you how this kind of, take the ENVO mask, and you'll see that it fits in here. But the problem is this is nice and snug up on your face, and it's too constricted. So last time we were on here, what we did was we took this little guy, this circuit board, and we got this to fit nice and snugly, like so. And take our magnet and connect it up, and that looks nice and snug inside there. So today what we're going to do is we are going to wire this up so we can test it and make sure that we actually have a signal being sent. And then we are going to hop on a computer in a second video, and we're going to start designing a 3D printed case for this so it actually can be protected and look like a product. So here we go. First thing we're going to do now is we need to solder this thing up. So we're going to take our magnet, put it over there, take that. We can put our ENVO mask back in the case that it came with. So we're doing that, and going to turn on our soldering iron. Okay, my soldering iron ready to go. Well, I'm left-handed, so putting that over there. So we got that, and get our tweezers, and we're going to need some cable. So let's figure out what cables we need for this thing. So we need to hijack our power from here. So we have our battery plus terminal and our battery negative terminal, and we're going to hot wire that so we can power our microphone. And then we have our left and right. So we have our ground and our left and our right for our audio. What we're going to do is we're going to tie these together so we basically are getting a mono output, or our mono input. And we need to wire that up as well to our output port on this little chip. If you missed the previous version where we got this all put together and broken out of its box, this is the MHTX4-A1. It is a low latency Bluetooth transmitter. And then this board over here is the MAX 9814, and this is a little microphone with an amplifier, and it auto gains, so we can get some nice audio out of that thing. So I'm gonna grab some wire. We need a red and black. We need 4 pieces of wire. So we're gonna need something to run from here to here and here to here. So we're gonna make that 1 wire run. It's 2 wires, red and black, and then we need black to go from there to there. And these 2 can be wired together, and that's going to go to out. So we need 4. I'm just going to grab 2 pieces of black, 1 red, and we'll call our audio yellow. So give me 1 second. I'm going to grab our wire from our spools. Get us some wire to play with. If you're tuning in and you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and I will try and answer them as soon as I see it in the chat. So I'd love to know where people are coming from, so if you want to let me know where you're tuning in from, that's also fun. And I don't know if there's a way to see who's watching these things. That would be cool. I'm new to Twitch, so if anybody has any hints or tricks or things that would be good for me to know, I would love to know that stuff. All right, so we got our wire. We're gonna get let's get our wire stripper. Okay, so we got our tools here that we need. So we got our wire stripping tool. We have our tweezers. We have our wire, and we have our soldering iron. Oh, and we're probably gonna need this little guy. This is my extra set of hands. So this is going to hold the things as we start soldering things up. So we have our solder on that unit as well. So the first thing we're going to do is let's get power to the microphone. And also one thing we should do is test to see if we're actually getting any power right now on this thing. Probably just turn it on and see if it turns on. It's got a little button here. Oh, look at that, we got power. It's got a little LED. You can see it flashing green there for a second. Yep, we got green. So that means it's on, so it's got voltage. I'm gonna turn that off again. I'm gonna hold it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds. I should turn it off. Okay. Okay. So let's also take a look at this. So on here, we have our ground. We have, we're a little out of focus. So this first one is our ground. This is our speaker left and speaker right. So I think what I want to do is also, I want to clear out. No, okay, we'll just leave that. And the other thing we are going to do is I'm going to not deal with the solder on this side. I'm going to deal with the solder on this side, so we don't have to worry about what we're doing here. So I'm going to clip this on, hold it by our little USB connector. Okay, and it looks like that's a little out of focus because it is higher up than everything else. So what I'm going to do is I am going to zoom in for us, but first I'm going to strip these wires. So let's strip our black. Just a little bit. Don't need very much wire. Just a little bit tip right there. And strip this one. Okay. And one thing I always learned is make sure to keep your workstation nice and clean. So our soldering iron now is set to 372 degrees Celsius. It's good. And I'm gonna zoom in on this workspace a little bit and see if we can get a little close to this board while I'm doing work. All right, that looks pretty good. So I'm gonna let that settle. All right, so what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna take a little bit of, let's get my solder from my spool. I'm gonna just wet the area here so we can get a little solder going, solder action. All right. So, this should be our negative. So that'll be black. This will be positive. So let's just get that going. So I'm going to do what's called wetting the tip of this, or tinning it. So you can see I have my solder and my wire. I'm going to just put a little bit of solder on my wire. So now, when I go to connect this up, it's already ready to go. All right, that's soldered on. So I have a little extra solder on this already. So we can consider that tinned. There's also some rosin in my my soldering kit over here, so that's automatically just being used. So let's make this parallel. All right, so that looks good. Now what we're going to do is we're going to turn on our oscilloscope, and we're going to test up to make sure that we are getting power out of this. So let me get my oscilloscope video up and running. Okay. So got my oscilloscope video preview down there. And let's just move that a little bit further. Okay. So I'm going to lock that in place. Okay, so now the question is, let's see what, if anything, that those wires are spitting out. So we're going to strip these wires a little bit. We're gonna cut these down eventually, but just for the moment, I'm gonna just strip the ends of them and make it so that we can hook it up to our oscilloscope, test out what our power is. So I'm hooking up my alligator here. And let's get our positive, hook that in. Okay, and we're going to turn it on. Oh, we don't have to turn it on because we're already getting power. So our power output right now is we're getting about 4 volts. That's good. We might want to add an inline switch of some sort because we're kind of hacking this thing right now, and when there's no power going to the Bluetooth board, it's going to still be drawing power through our microphone amplifier. So that's interesting. I actually don't know if that will do anything to draw on the system if we're not connected to anything that's pulling the audio. If anybody out there has any answers to that, that'd be great. So otherwise, what we're gonna do is we're gonna wire this up to our microphone. So I'm gonna turn off our oscilloscope view, and I'm going to disconnect my wires here. And what we are going to do is we are going to route this cable and have it go to here. I think routing it back here is not the worst idea. Oh, and we didn't get that to stay. That's no good. So we're gonna resolder that back on. And you know what would be really nice is to put a dollop of hot glue on this thing to make sure this doesn't go anywhere. So we're gonna do that. I'm gonna get a dollop of hot glue so that doesn't go anywhere. So I'm gonna get my hot glue gun. And bear with me while I do that. My gun. My glue gun. Okay. So, got my hot glue gun. Plug that in to my workbench so we can secure this wire. And the other thing that might be good to secure this wire is to put some heat shrink on it. Make it look pretty. Some heat shrink. Oh, we lost it again. Okay. So I'm going to make sure the solder's all the way through. So let's take a look here. Okay, that feels a little better. Let's actually take a look at the other side of this thing. Let's see, is that more secure? That feels more secure. They both feel more secure now. But we are still going to put some hot glue on that just to make sure it's not going anywhere. And we are going to run this cable something around here. I like that. Maybe I'll get some double-sided tape and put it on the bottom of that, just so we can hold it to start. So, I got some double-sided tape, scissors. I'm going to trim this up. Okay. Take my double-sided tape, trim it a little smaller. Now that that's out of frame, sorry, but can't do everything inside this tiny little frame here. Okay, and I got tweezers to pull off the top of the tape. Again, if you're tuning in, I'd love to know where you are tuning in from, and if you're a recurring viewer or if you are new to this channel. Okay, so that there. All right, so that's good. Okay, I think our hot glue is finally warm enough to put a little dollop on here. To make sure that stays where it is. This is not how I'd want to do a production module, but this is good for a prototype. What I'm doing now is I'm just using the heat from the end of this hot glue gun to shape my hot glue a little bit. Okay. And we'll clean up any of this excess glue from the board that we don't need here. Ah! Look at that. Hold right off. Okay. Okay, cleaned off that excess glue. And let's mount that right back on there. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to route this cable. I'm going to support this with this other alligator clamp. I'm going to put just a little dollop of glue underneath this to hold that down. Kind of have this industrial size hot glue gun for this tiny little project, but we do what we can do. So there's my dollop of glue. Okay. Oh, sorry, I had my head in the way there. Okay. Let's clean up any of this excess glue string that we don't need. Okay. So that looks good. And now we are going to route these over. To here. Let's see. That's power. So I'm going to just mark this a little bit with a... Oh, that's not the Sharpie that I wanted. My silver Sharpie. Love my silver Sharpies. And we're going to just mark out how long we want to make this cable so we can cut it. That's good. And let's see our ground. So we want to give ourselves a little bit of leeway here. Okay. So I got those two figured out. I'm going to just cut this for now. And then what we're going to do is we are going to route our other cables. Okay, so we got those two. And the next thing we're going to do is we are going to route our ground out to our ground here, and also our speaker right and speaker left. And those are going to go to our output, And also on this board, we need to short our gain to our voltage, because that is going to make it so that we are not amplifying this super high. Pardon me. Just had delicious dinner. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is let's figure out what this wire run is going to look like. So let's go from our ground, and we can come right across this unit. Ah! Let's try that again. Bring us back into view. Alright, so we're going from here, and we're going to give ourselves a little bit of consider that, and go to about there. So I'm going to just cut this one because I can. And we have extra cable just in case we still need that. And you know, I'm going to say that our audio cable can be the same exact length. So we're just going to snip that up. Snip, 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 snip. Okay. We can put away these cables that we're not going to use. Go into our short ends bin. Okay, so now what am I going to do? Now what I want to do is I want to solder in our ground, and I also want to put what I want to do. I would like to put a piece of tape there. I think that'd be nice to get this thing how it's going to be, but okay. So I probably should have done this before I glued it. Okay. It looks like that came off of our glue. It's fine. Put a little dollop of glue on top of it. Actually, I'm going to swap these because we have a channel. Put a little bit of glue on top of it. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I actually want to put both of these ground cables into that ground port and solder them at the same time, so we can have common ground. Oh, sorry, that was, I know it was a corny joke, but soldering iron's turning off. Let's bring that back on. A soldering iron that has an auto off function when it's not being used, and it felt like it was not being used, so it turned itself off. At least it was starting to. Okay, but what we are going to do before we do anything is I'm going to wet these tips, or I'm going to tin these tips. So again, tinning a tip is basically taking some solder and putting it on the end of a wire, so that when you go to solder it, it's already got some solder on there, and it does it nice and easy. Okay. Okay. So let's guide this little guy into that hole. And let's get our second one to go there as well. Okay. And before we do anything, what we're going to do is we're going to flip this over. And hopefully they're going to stay. Looks like they're staying. We're going to pray that we don't push this through when we solder it. Look at that. Okay, so that worked. And now what we're going to do is we are going to hook up the voltage. The other thing we need to do at the same time with this voltage wire is we need to short the voltage over to that G slot right there. So I'm going to cut ourselves a little piece of wire as well to do that. I'm going to keep our same wire colors here with our red, so we know that we are shorting over positive voltage into that port. Just got ourselves a little tiny cable, a tiny one. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is let's get that. Actually, first thing we're going to do is we're going to tin this thing. Which I had more hands than just these two extra ones. Okay, so that did the job. Not sure if that was in view or not. Sorry. There's only so much I can do at one time. Okay. So here goes our voltage in. And let's take this little guy and we're going to guide that in as well. Alright, so they should stay there when I flip this over, hopefully. And then we're going to pray that this doesn't come out when we solder it. Okay, so it looks like those stayed. And as you can see on the back here, we have our ground, and we have our voltage, and we have our gain, and we have our out, and we have our AR. I'm not going to lie, I don't know what AR is. And then what we're talking about here is it says, let me get this into view. So, if you leave the gain floating, it's going to set it to 60 dB amplification. If you put the gain to ground, it's going to give us 50 dB amplification. And if we set the gain to the voltage, it's going to give us 40 dB amplification. And the thing is, this is going to be nice and close to your face, to your mouth, so we don't need to amplify it super high. So we're going to just do 40. So we're going to short this over to here. So let me do that. I'm going to flip it over. Let's guide that wire. right, so we have that coming through. So put a little solder on there. Okay, so now that's all soldered up. So our next step, so I got that. Next step is connecting this over to here. So let's reset our unit here. And we also want to get this up. We're not in view. Okay. So the next thing we need to do is we're going to have this ground going to this ground pin right here. Then we also want to take our speaker right and speaker left, and we're going to have those go into our output. So the first thing we do is flip this over. On the other side of it, there is some excess wire. So we're going to remove those excess wires. Ah! Trying to find the most optimal way to approach this thing. Okay. It's always a fun game. Okay, so we're just going to unsolder this. So first we're going to take our tweezers, put a little bit of rosin. Actually, one of the tricks here is you can, it's called wet the solder. So you just take a little bit of new solder and your soldering iron and your target, and apply a little bit of solder, and that loosens it up, takes it right off. And do that with this one. Right away, gone. Okay. And then what we are going to do, I have a soldering suction tool. We're going to suck this solder right on out of there because I really want a nice fresh area to work with. Where is my solder sucker? Oh, there it is. Okay. So we got this thing, it's a solder sucker. I do have a pump unit that we could be using, but it's too much work right now to pull that thing out. All right, so we got a nice clear hole there. Actually try and attack it from the other side. Got most of it. We're gonna loosen this one up a bit. Damn. We're not even in view. Okay. All right, well, that looks good enough. So, first what we're going to do is we're going to feed that ground through that ground hole. So let's get this all back up here. All right, nice and secure. Okay. And let's try and get this figured out. Okay. So this wire, we're going to tin the tip of that. Okay. We're going to feed that into here. Now, I really want to clear this hole. There we go. That worked. Let's clear this one now. There we go. All right, so those are cleared. That's great. That's way better. Okay. So now we can actually feed these through the holes properly. Looks like I'm out of focus. Let's see if we can focus up a little bit. Okay. So here we go. Now we're gonna this. That should go right through there. No, too much solder on here. Also, everyone out there, make sure you're using lead-free solder so you don't hurt yourself. No one needs to be inhaling lead solder. Ooh, pardon me. Okay, so here we go. I'll just do this the old-fashioned way. Okay, so now we're going to just add a little more solder to this. Okay, let's flip it over. Make sure that we actually have it going through all the way. We do. Oh, that looks good. Okay, looks good. Now we are going to hook up our output. And in order to do that, we kind of want to do the same thing we did before with the shorting of the cables. But instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to just jump it. So let's see. Alright, so that looks nice and clear. So I'm going to just run this cable through it. So here we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to trim up a little bit on this. Okay. trim our, let's open up our end on this side. Okay. Now I'm going to do is I'm going to run this cable through the board, through it, and then back up. So let's see if that works. Definitely out of focus again. Sorry about that. I keep changing my focal length. It's not focal length. Field of view here, what I'm focusing on. Must have been a little dark. Okay, so there we go. So now you can see what's going on really well. So we're going to feed this through here. Like feeding a needle through, or feeding thread through a needle. And then what we're going to do is we want to basically connect that through on the other side. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to solder that so it stays where it is. Okay. It's not going anywhere. Let's flip this over. Let's get that back in focus. Okay. So now what I'm doing, I'm taking this piece of this cable and going to feed it through there. You know, before I do that, I probably should tin this so it stays as one piece. All right, so that looks like it's kind of there. It's good enough. And we're going to solder it, and we're going to try and push it through at the same time. So we don't even need to do that. We're just going to solder it. Come on this side. Okay, so we're almost there. All right, so I think that is good. It seems like that is connected up. Okay, so now we want to flip this thing back over, and we're going to run this into our output. And what time is it? 7:30.
That's fine.
I'm doing some work.
Okay.
What's up?
That's all you know. I was checking my messages. I have a message from the FBI.
Hold on a second. Okay. And we're just gonna tin that tip. I don't know if you all heard, but the person was my father. He told me that he got a call from the FBI. We live in Malibu, and he has been working on weeding out corruption in the government here. That should be a whole other channel on Twitch, but for now it's not. So I think that cable might be a little too long. It is, but you know what? This is a prototype, so it's fine. So we got that heading through there. Let's flip it over and solder it together. And here we go. All right, so now that should be all connected up. So we're gonna let's put some double-sided tape on this thing and let's secure these cables. You know what? I am pretty confident in my wiring here. So I'm gonna just put Dalpa glue on it. Wouldn't recommend doing that normally, but I'm pretty confident in this. Okay. So now we're gonna test this thing. So let me zoom back out, clean up my workspace, I'm gonna turn off my soldering iron. I can unplug the hot glue gun for now. Okay, so I have the hot glue gun rest, and we're gonna put our soldering iron back. Let's bring this guy into the mix. Also, we're going to clean up our workspace. Okay, so let's zoom out. All right, here's our workspace. It's kind of dirty. Get our vacuum for a second. We're going to clean that up. So let's move. We don't want to get sucked up by the vacuum out of our area. Let's go get our shop vac. I apologize to be loud. Alright, put our things back in our field. So we got our transmitter. This is going to be our receiver. And that's, oh, we need our mask. There's our mask. Okay. And what we're going to do next is actually, we're going to unplug the headphones from that. We're going to plug our headphones into this so we don't have a crazy feedback going on. Unplug that. There we go. Okay. So now let's see what happens. Let's put these headphones in. We need to turn this on and make sure it's pairing. So let's turn this thing on. Why isn't it turning on? Well, that's fun. Did I kill you? I don't think I killed you. Well, what we're gonna do is we're gonna plug it in. Let's give it some juice and see what happens. All right, well that worked. Okay, we got power again. That did something. Hey, check that out. Okay, so it's working. I can hear it on my headphone. Wait a minute. Oh yeah, okay. So, yeah, okay. So, let's see what happens if I unplug this. Okay. Actually, yeah, let's do that. So if I unplug this, yeah. Okay. I hope this isn't going to give me a feedback loop. Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Okay, so check this out. That is from this. Okay, so I'm going to see what happens if I unplug this and put it into this unit. Whoa, don't do that. I'm going to unplug that again. So we're unplugging that. That works. Let's see if this turns off when I unplug it. Stayed on. That's great. So now we're going to put it in here. So that side down. Let's get our little magnet. Where'd our magnet go? No, where did the magnet go? Where did the magnet? If I were a magnet, where would I go? Man, where'd my magnet go? I was so good at keeping that magnet, and now it's gone. Shut up. I bet you it is connected to the soldering iron. It is! Okay, found it. Great. So, we're connected. Look at that, we have a little green light that's coming through. Can't really see it. Okay. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this thing on. Okay. And Get my headphones to see if I can hear myself. Okay, let's see how bad this sounds. Okay, well that is super loud, but I could probably deal with gaining this microphone or using a slightly less sensitive microphone. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so let's see what happens if we do this. Can you hear me? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that is definitely blown out, but it's working. Okay, so I like this. I'm down with that. That is really quick. So okay, so my question is, can I dampen this if I put a little bit of foam in front of the microphone? That's a question. Hello? Can you hear me? Is that any better? No, that is still really hot. Okay, so. The problem is the microphone in here is super sensitive. I wonder if I can use a less sensitive microphone. So I have those, I believe. They were in my box of goodies. But this is working, and that is really important. The next step is making this speaker louder. Okay, also let's see if it's coming out of both. Oh, pardon me. It is coming out of both. Okay, so is the speaker intensity due to this, or do we need some type of driver to it so that it is louder? I don't know. So let's do an experiment. The experiment is going to be taking, what do we need? We need some type of cable that's got, okay. So I got this. This cable has got red and ground. So if we plug this into here, okay, and actually, do we just have a headphone cable we can dissect? We're gonna find out in a second. We sure do. Okay, so now we're gonna just cut this sucker. So we have cables to play with. Okay, that's cut. Put these cables into our cable bin. That is so blown out. But hey, okay, we take it off. Okay, so that is way better. Okay, hello? Okay, I mean that sounds really good at that distance. And that's because the microphone needs to be gained properly. Okay, so in order to test our speaker, what we're going to do is we are going to do two things. First, we're going to just plug it into this speaker and see if the speaker's louder by itself. And the other thing we're going to do is we have this little amplifier that is supposed to amplify to a degree. We'll see what it does. So let's strip one of these cables. I'm going to go with the white cable. Let's do that. Let's strip it. How do I strip it? Got our stripper. Okay. Actually need more of this stripped. So, okay. And you strip the end of this cable. Okay. So now if we plug this in to here, we should get audio coming out of here. Hello, testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, that did work, but let's actually connect it. The question is which one is positive and which one is negative. Well, I'm believing that the black is negative. Hello. Testing. Alright, so we do have audio coming out of this thing, but it is not that loud. Hello? Testing. Hello. Hello, 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 hello. Okay, so do. Okay, yeah, that's not very loud coming out of either one of these speakers. And I'm assuming now that that means we need to put an amplifier on it. So, before we go any further, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this one how it is. Unplug that. And we're going to just build a little amplifier here. We have a little amplifier chip, a little amplifier board. And we're going to just disconnect that. Okay. I don't like how this is working. It looks ugly. I'm going to trim it up. So, what time is it? That's a question. 7:45. Okay, we got time. I gotta wrap this up by 8:30 my time. For other obligations this evening, i.e. family time. Okay. Got one viewer still. I don't know where you're viewing from. I'd like to know. Just curious. So one viewer, if you would like to tell me where you're tuning in from, that'd be so cool to know. That's how you strip a cable. That's pretty. Okay. So now I'm gonna strip the end off of this. And we're gonna input. Alright, so we're going to solder this together just for shits and giggles. I really hope this is not the one that I destroyed. Maximum cap on this thing is 6 volts, and I believe I put 10 volts through one of these, and that was not happy. Soldering iron. And where'd my second set of hands go? And just because what we're actually going to do is no, we're just going to leave it. It's fine. So we're going to go left and left. Now we're soldering the ground. Okay, so that's connected up. Now this needs power, and it also needs to plug into our speaker. So for our speaker, I think what I'm going to do is going to get some cable. We're going to plug it in. We have some extra cable from before, so that's good. So let's just use that cable. Make them the right lengths. It's good. Let's strip the ends of the cable. Okay. Let's strip their ends so we can plug into our speaker easily. Okay. And go positive and solder that. Okay. Put this in here. Okay. And probably should add some terminal for our positive and negative for our power. So I'm going to just add these pins to it. Okay, those are all on there. And let's see. Oh, we need that still because we need to solder our speaker. Okay, so let's do that. Let's take Sorry, I stopped narrating. I'm kind of in the zone. All right, so that's soldered. Let's solder the positive side. Okay. That's soldered up. Okay. Last thing we need is power. So let's take this. You're here. And we have that. So let's see. I don't want to connect that directly up. So I want to find myself some of my connectors that have jumpers on them. Alright, so what we have here is our connector cables, our test cables with female sides on them. So that one is good, and that one's good too. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to plug this in. That's our negative, and here's our positive. So let's connect this up to our positive on our power, and here is positive on our power. Alright, sorry, negative on our power. Okay, so now if we give this thing some juice, let's move that over here. If we give it some juice, we're gonna start at 3 volts. Okay, that was a little too much. Let's turn that volume down. Okay, so now, can you hear me? Okay, so I'll put this on my face. Let's put that here. Okay, so can you hear me now? Can you guys hear me? Okay, so that works. And we're not getting feedback. It's just the fact that this thing is too far, it's too close to my face.
So if I go over here, you can hear me. Okay, that is great. Okay. I'm still... I don't know what's going on there. That's definitely some other issue. Another question is, are there using the right microphone? I think we need to have a different microphone that's not going to auto gain this high, and it might work better. So, great. We're going to turn this off. This is a successful project. And yeah, thank you for, okay, that is, okay. So over here, if we stand over here and we talk, that is good. So this seems like a successful project, and it's working with very, very low latency. Yeah, it's just gaining up way too high. So, yeah, our next step on this project is to use a different microphone and see if that works better. Thank you for tuning in and signing off. Peace.
Ah!